Okay, happy Monday and welcome to our Lead Well Legacy call. Tonight's call is really special because we've opened it up to the general public, and I hope we have a lot of visitors on just to get a glimpse of what we do as coaches and what we promote as coaches. We're all about the nutrition, and we have an amazing supplement that we use that most people call most people consider it to be where is it? Hold on, I'm sorry, I just got lost. It found me. Okay. Most people consider it to be a weight loss supplement, and it is used for losing weight, but it has amazing nutrition benefits. In today's call, we're going to talk to Alfredo, but first things first, a little bit of team business. Shout out to Heather Church for hitting the 400 club this week. Congrats, Heather, and moving your business forward and building it up. All right, so let's jump on the call. My name is Shaheen. I'm a Diamond Fitness coach. I also am a physician assistant. I have worked in the fields of medicine, doing family practice, pediatrics, women's health, neurology, and also I specialize in gastroenterology. So a little bit of here and there with some medical knowledge, and I love nutrition. And our co-host tonight, if he can unmute himself, is Alfredo Mejia. Alfredo, can you say hello?
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Alfredo is an Emerald Beachbody coach who is a type 2 diabetic. Oh, who's unmuted? Okay. Who's a type 2 diabetic. And for those of you that don't know, type 2 diabetes is a medical condition in which your body cannot control its sugars. And that actually wreaks havoc on your body. And you'll hear a little bit about what the effects of high blood sugars can be on your system. So Alfredo, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Like you said, my name's Alfredo Mejia. I am a veteran from the U.S. Army. Back in 2004, when I got out, shortly after I got out, I was working with my VA doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with my knee. You know, that was the whole reason why I was medically discharged. At the time, I walked around with a cane. And so that was my focus with the doctors. So in 2006, I was assigned a new doctor, and I was like, hey, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's see what's going on. And he was very positive. He's all right, let's go ahead and do it. But we have to do a full physical. I'm not going to go into just looking at one thing. Let's go ahead and see what's going on from head to toe. So I'm like, sure, let's go for it. You know, I did not expect the news that he was going to give me. I had just started working at the bank, and he calls like, hey, you got a moment? I got some good and some bad news. So I was just like, all right, you know, do I need to be sitting down for this? And he was actually, yeah, you do. So I was just like, okay. So, you know, like, what's up with my knee? He's like, well, we're still working on your knee. We got to figure that part out, but that's the least of my concern right now. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe I do got to sit down. So then I sat down, and he's like, hey, turns out your sugars are beyond high where normal should be, and you probably feel like you're on a constant energy high, and which is good for you now, but you keep that pace you're going, you're not going to be around for 10 years. So we got to focus immediately on that. And he brought me in. At that point, we just started from there, trying to use different combinations of medicine to regulate that. Turns out I was not good with some medicine. So immediately I had to stop using that, and we had to just keep bumping up to different levels. And for the most part, I had the diabetes under control. And then, let me see, I want to say about a year or so, after using the medicines that he was giving me, I was constantly trying different doses of medicine. So I had at some point had to increase say my glipizide, for example, which is medicine that we use for diabetes. So I had to raise that. dosage, but then regulated with some other type of medicine. So it it really messed with the system. You know, at times I was just like, dude, no offense, doc, but I feel a lot better when before finding out I was diabetic. The high and lows of the sugar rush was crazy. So when my sugars would bottom out, the few times that it did, just because I had too much medicine in me, forget it. Cold shakes would come up, sugars, and you know, I would lose that. I would get dizziness and lose that focus. So it was just like, when it goes high, it was totally the other way. I had this energy rush, and I would get irritated easy. So I was just like, it's like when I'm hungry. When I get hungry, forget it. You don't want to be around me because I get irritated.
Well, that's me too. So I totally understand that. So Alfredo, just a quick question. To get your diabetes under control, to get your sugars under control, how many medications were you on?
Over the years, I started off with metformin, and no matter what combination of dosage we used, it didn't sit right with my stomach at all. So we had to stop that. Next step was glipizide. There was something else before we moved up to glipizide, but I can't even pronounce the names.
That's okay.
So, but glipizide is what I ended up using, and just slowly started working up the different dosage as far as milligrams and how often I was taking it during the day. So, in about 2014, can't believe the year's almost done. In 2014, they told me, hey, you're not doing any better. Your diabetes is getting worse. And we have to start you with insulin injections. And that hurts. You know, I don't mind giving blood to donate. You know, go ahead, stick a needle in, call it a day. But in self-injecting myself, it's a little tiny needle. It's a little tiny needle, but it would just psych me out. I'm just like, I don't want to do it. You know, and then it's about the size of the needle right here.
Yeah.
And, well, you know, this is your
But not everybody on the call knows, so I'm glad you're showing it.
So this little tiny little guy right here,
yeah,
packs a punch if you don't stick it in the right way.
Yeah.
And my buddy, my former business partner, he would tell you that, you know, I lift my shirt up and everything, and it just looked bruised like crazy. You know, it looked like somebody was using me as a punching bag.
Yep.
Marks here, there, in my arms if I use my arms. Finally started using my legs, and I didn't bruise as much. Right.
So basically, over the course of 4 years of trying to get your sugars under control, it basically became medications plus insulin, correct? Yeah. Correct. All right. And then, so let me take a little minute and just explain a little bit about how diabetes affects your cells. So we're specifically talking about type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is actually on the rise. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had kids on medications. But with the rising rates of obesity, basically 1 in 2 people over the age of 50, so we're talking about 50% of the US population is affected by either prediabetes or diabetes. That statistic alone is mind-boggling. All right. Now we're talking about that was over age 50. But if you talk about people over age 20, and this is a statistic from back in 2010, about 30% of people over age 20 are pre-diabetic. That number has only gone up. And the reason that that has gone up, if you look back over about 100 years ago, we used to live very active lifestyles. We used to eat real food, and we used to move. You know, our lifestyle was very different. Fast forward 100 years, we are in the age of fast food, processed food, and it's not real food. You've got chemicals added into it. You've got things processed beyond recognition. We went from whole wheat and berries and all these other things to white, processed, got to look pretty, got to stay on the supermarket shelves. There were no supermarkets back in the days. You went to the market, you bought fresh fruits and fresh veggies. You went to the butcher, you got your fresh food. So lifestyles changed. So the economy changed, food processing and the food industry changed. So what happens is over the time and all this processing strips our food of natural nutrients. So why am I talking about nutrition when we're talking about Shakeology and when we're talking about diabetes, I should say? Well, kind of like Alfredo, and we'll get to how he stumbled onto Shakeology. About 2 years ago, I stumbled onto Shakeology, and I was the biggest skeptic, quite honestly. I was like, I don't know about that shake. I was like, I'll do the fitness. I eat pretty clean. Let's see. But eating pretty clean, still suffering from, effects of bloating, digestive issues. And that's all from the processed stuff. Thinking that I was eating healthy, I would be eating these energy bars and granola bars. Guess what? It's all processed. If it's got chemical names and stuff in the labels, processed. So first thing I did was when I got my bag of Shakeology in, I looked at the labels. Not a single chemical name, all natural. It had just real, wholesome foods, superfoods from all over the world. I was like, oh, this might be worth it. So when you're talking about feeding your body real food, your body responds in kind. So as a diabetic, you have to feed the right proportions of foods to your body. So you have to portion out your carbs, your proteins, your veggies, and your carbs should ideally not be those white starchy things that we don't recognize, right? Stripped of all nutrients. Your carbs should be wholesome carbohydrates with plenty of fiber. If you look at what we call the ideal plate, it has a serving of protein, a serving of veggies, big serving of veggies, a nice serving of healthy carbohydrates. If you look at the macronutrients of all of that, it's hard to make that plate every single meal. It really is. It's, as good as we try, we just can't. But if you look at the macronutrients of Shakeology, the protein, the carbs, the fiber, it breaks down to the perfectly portioned meal in terms of nutrition. And none of it's processed. There are no chemicals, there are no fillers, and there are no additives. So that's why when you're feeding your body this good nutrition and you're feeding yourself the perfectly portioned ideal meal, your body is going to respond in kind. So what happens when you have diabetes is that if you overdo the carbohydrates, your blood sugars levels spike and your pancreas has to produce more insulin to get it down. So you get a big rush and a big crash. And that's what Alfredo was talking about when he was talking about having to feel like feeling cold sweats and feeling exhausted. So Alfredo, let's get back to how you discovered Shakeology and how did that affect how you made your food choices and your diet?
Sure. Let's see. I was keeping track of time now. It was 2015.
Yeah.
The summit that you guys went to for Nashville.
Yes.
So I get the invite from my cousin E. He's on the call, and his wife were going up there to do that, hang out with you guys, and get certified and all that. So he calls me up. He's like, or he actually shoots me a text message saying, "Hey, we have an extra room because my sister bailed out, so we don't want it to go to waste, and come enjoy it." So at the time I was running the business, did everything I could to free it up, and we got the babysitters, and off we went. The wife and I to meet up with them. So we thought, at one point I was wondering if they were even there because you guys were busy. So, but we ended up meeting up, and that night, or before we met up, that afternoon, we were on the shuttle bus, my wife and I, just waiting for it to load up and take us to the hotel. And while we're there, all we see is people walking back and forth, fitness gear, left and right, and the light bulb goes on. My wife looks at me and says, "Hey, we got to do something. You're doing, we got to do something to get your health back in order." And I was just like, let's go ahead and go for it, because in 2009, I had tried the whole P90X and everything like that. It worked great, but then when I come down to eat, I'm in the South, so everything we fry food is like being in Puerto Rico. Everything is fried. So when I came down to eat, it was just like fried chicken, fried pork chops. It was so everything I did working out just went to crap because I'm eating this delicious food. And so but that's what ended up happening. So later that night, I ended up talking to my cousin, and he's telling me all about, we're just pretty much catching up to date, and he's telling me about the 21-day fix program. So I'm like, okay, and I get intrigued. The following morning, my wife's awake, so the girls are talking about the program and everything like that. We get educated on it, and the whole time when driving back home, I'm just in my back of my mind trying to pinpoint how I'm going to do this, trying to budget the bills. What am I going to do to make this happen? Because I really wanted to give it a try. And finally, I was like, screw it, grab the credit card and put it on there. And the whole time I had that guilty feeling like, damn, I could have used that money for something else, more productive. And this is my train of thought. I wasn't thinking my life at the time as being important. I was thinking bills, cars, whatever. So that was my train of thought. Finally, the product arrived, and at that point we're full steam ahead, and we're doing what the product says to do. So about my third day into using Shakeology, I looked at my wife. I'm like, babe, do you recall me taking my medicine? I checked my sugars and it was right where it needed to be. So I was just like, whatever, maybe I did. And which is weird because I have certain things I'm very OCD and anal. So I have my routine. So, and that's one of them. So if not, and that was probably one of my biggest things was struggling over the years, is maintaining my medicine in me. So, so after that third day, I started then monitoring, see what's going on. And I noticed every day it was getting to where it needed to be. And I'm just like, okay. About day 9, I went and got the work with through my VA, through the doctor. Yeah. It was just my time of the month to go get my routine checkup. So, and he was like, hey, I see some improvements, but it's really unfair to say that it's because of this, because you only started doing it a short period of time. Let's take 2 months, do what you're doing, don't use your medicine, but be mindful. If you have to use it, don't be dumb. Be smart about it, use it. But other than that, give it 2 solid months to see what happens. So we did just that. And the whole time, I'm just like, wow, in shock. Every day passing by, I'm taking pictures, posting it up.
Yeah.
And, a lot of other folks from the diabetic communities are hitting me up. Like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Try it out. I don't know if it works for you or not. And some of them are getting the same results. And I keep trying to encourage them, like, post it on there, share the word that, you found out because I shared it. So kind of do a solid and help other diabetic as well.
Right.
But, to each his own.
So Alfredo, quick question.
Yeah.
What were your sugars running like before?
My sugars were in the twos, in the 200s. So I want to say about 230s, 240s. And
that's with all your medications, correct?
That was with the medicine. And I struggled a lot at night because if I didn't follow my routine of keeping the medicine in me, it was a constant struggle, because then dinner time came along, and this is me thinking, let me skip a meal here, so then I could give time for my sugars to come down, and nighttime comes and I was inhaling food.
Yeah.
Still the military mentality where you eat fast and you taste it later. So 2 plates later, I'm still eating, going for my third. And my wife is like, hey, slow it down. We don't need a garbage disposal, because that was it. Yeah. And that was the reality of my life. It wasn't until a couple months ago that I was talking to one of the coaches here, explaining my story, and I had my moment there. I was like, I was embarrassed with my own self because I let myself get that way. And I was just like, embarrassed, disappointed. It was just,
it was your wake-up call, right?
Yes. It was
yeah. So let's give the people who aren't so familiar with your posts an idea of what your sugars are like now.
Now my sugars stay anywhere in the 116s. Want to say in maybe the 140s price range. My AC1, or A1C. So you
Yeah.
get 7 up. My A1C.
I was going to correct you, but that's okay. You did it.
So my A1C at the time I started doing my 21-day fix was at 8 points even, and then it dropped down to 6.4.
That's awesome. So for those of you not familiar with diabetes, the hemoglobin A1C is a marker of long-term sugar control. Now, we've talked about short-term sugar control. That's his blood sugars, okay? So he's got to check those a couple of times a day. And he did everything exactly the right way. He let his doctor in on his plan. He watched his meals. The Shakeology that he was feeding, that superfood-filled shake, was the start. It also helped to, because he was actually fueling his body with all the nutrients, all those vitamins, all those superfoods that he needed, that his body needed to help repair some of that, inflammation and all those radical, and we call them radicals, free radical effects that all that chronic and long-term poor control was doing to his body. It was starting to let his body heal and let his body take control and start to regulate itself. That is why without medications, that's actually the key that I want to tell you, is without his medications, his sugars are in the 100s, in the low 100s. Generally on a day, and I see this man's posts, his sugars are about 110 to 120. Okay, so without medications, his sugars came down from 230, poorly controlled, diabetic, to 110. That's not diabetic, okay? And that's not his fasting. His fasting is under 100. So kudos to you, Alfredo, because seriously, with medications, that ish is hard to do. And you're doing it with controlling your diet, feeding your body. And also, one of the benefits to Shakeology is because it has all those things, you're actually curbing your body's cravings, because those cravings happen when you're not feeding your body what it needs. Your body's like, I'm not getting the protein I need. Go get me something to eat. So you instinctively reach for something else. I tell people all the time, I tell all my challengers, I was like, don't skip meals and make sure you've got at least a protein and get some good carbs, be it fruits or start healthy starches into your meals, because if you don't, your body's going to crave it. And how perfect is this, that this is on the go meal ready in less than 2 minutes. You're drinking it on your way out the door or wherever you're going. So what his hemoglobin A1C is a measure of long-term control. We're talking about over 3 months. Okay. So Alfredo's doctor checks his hemoglobin A1C. 7 is diabetic. Okay, his was 8. The higher the number, the less controlled the diabetes. The higher the number, the more damage the diabetes is doing to your body. So what are some of these damaging effects that diabetes does to your body? Uncontrolled sugar in your bloodstream causes inflammation in the lining of your blood vessels. That is how you get coronary artery disease. That is why you are at risk for heart attacks and why you are at risk for strokes with diabetes. When you control that level of sugar in your bloodstream, and then with exercise combined in, your muscles pull in some of that extra sugar and help you burn it off. You're controlling and reducing your risk of heart disease. You can control your risk for heart disease. That's just mind-blowing if you think about it. When you have high levels of sugar in your bloodstream, you affect your nerves. So what do nerves do? They affect wound healing. They affect, your intestinal motility. People with diabetes, poorly controlled, have what we call gastroparesis, a slowing down of the gut. So food, instead of making its way through, can sit in the stomach for over 3, 4, 5 hours and not even begin digestion. That's crazy. So it affects everything. And then wound healing, you get ulcers. If you have surgery, it takes you longer to heal. So Alfredo single-handedly, with taking control of his health by making that one decision to take a chance on this shake and on this fitness program, took charge of his life, probably added years, if not decades, to his life because slowly, unfortunately, it was whittling away. You have that control in your hands. Now, Alfredo, seriously, you've blown me away by your motivation, but this is actually the thing that just kind of knocks me out. How long did it take you to get this control on your sugars?
Really, to be honest, like I said, by my third day is when I noticed. Bad. I'm like, hey, and I looked at my wife. Did I take my medicine or not? Because if I did and my sugars were fine, then it makes sense. But if it's fine and I didn't, and I would go ahead and make the error of taking my medicine, then I'm over here running to go get some sugar water to freaking spike my sugar back up. So, but overall, I got the results from my A1C.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I got those. I started in August, and at the beginning of October is when they found out. So that's what, 2 months, pretty much.
Yep.
So
that's what I wanted you to share more than anything else. So 5 years struggling with this disease, this debilitating disease, 5 years. And in 2 months, you reversed it.
Yeah, it tell you, it feels good on my side to be on the other end of the punching table and, the punching bag, because, it was scary when I first found out, I was diabetic, because I didn't know what the heck it was.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine from some of my family members that my dad was diabetic. So I was like, okay, I found out then. That's where I got it from. His was actually to the point where he lost vision in his eyes. So, I mean, it is what it is. But that's what happens when you don't take the necessary measures to take care of it. So the risk is real, and, I could relate. At the time, I was a smoker. So in addition to being a diabetic, that's delayed my healing process. So did my smoking process delayed that even worse.
Yeah. And
it was scary for me, because this time last year, I was actually in the hospital, not to do with the diabetes, but I had a ruptured appendix. And I was laying there for like 3 weeks. That whole time there, it was an hour opener, because I was scared. I didn't know I was going to come home. So from there on out, forget it. They say when you encounter life-changing, death scenario like that, you change, and that's where I became. I think that's why I was more open-minded this time around when my cousin was telling me about the 21-day fix, Shakeology. I'm like, let's go. So
you were partially right. Genetics plays a role in diabetes, lifestyle. So you hit the nail on the head with the smoking, but actually, so genetics is the big, huge factor, but lifestyle is actually the biggest risk factor, because I know, and we come across plenty of newly diagnosed diabetics with type 2 diabetes who have absolutely no family history. And they tend to be the sedentary, not very active, don't really follow the healthiest meal plan, a lot of fast food, a lot of processed foods, and they tend to be overweight. Obesity is an epidemic. It's all over the media, all over the world, it's an epidemic, but in America, it's rising at the fastest rate. And, when couple that with the lack of activity, with our people not playing outside and kind of going on the video game generation, it's a recipe for disaster. But the best part of this thing is that it is reversible and we have control over it. So what I want everybody on this call to realize is it's in your hands. You do have the power. You can take it. You can try it. One of the things that I always tell anybody who is really on the fence about it, our programs are proven. Your results are atypical because you're so motivated and you were just so on the ball. So kudos to you, but they're not unusual. I have a fellow challenger who reversed her diabetes in about 3 months, is off of medications. And what motivated her was her father passing away with complications of diabetes as well. So we hear these stories as coaches time and time and time again. My mother, who was recently diagnosed as a diabetic, was able to get her sugars under control with the use of portion control containers and Shakeology. I mean, that's phenomenal, right? These are not these, 1 in a million stories that we hear. And I'm so glad that people get to put your face with this story, because it's important, it's powerful, but it's real. And that's what we want to share here today on our call.
Yes, the reason that I guess I make it so passionate, it's the passion that burns inside me, day to day. And I don't mind not sleeping just so if I could talk to somebody about it, because I've gone through all the miracle drugs, trying to do this, I've done the whole low carb, high fat diets.
Yeah.
I've done the whole, let's go ahead and try this pill or try this liquid that you can try, and avid follower of Dr. Oz. And I'm like, all right, let me try this. Anything that would say, hey, I could get away from the pills, because the only pills I would love to take were the Flintstone vitamins, and that's about it. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, but you really do have to take a chance. And, for all of our guests on the call tonight, there's something that I want you to realize. When you reach out to your coach, if you have, or the person who invited you on this call, if you have any questions, but keep this in mind. You can invest in yourself and in your health. And we to our bones believe in this product and believe in this nutrition plan and fitness plans. I mean, at-home fitness plans where you don't have to do anything except push play and just put in the sweat. There's a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you want to be like Alfredo and take a chance, just do it. What do you have to lose? 30 days. Don't like it? You can return it. You get your money back if it doesn't work for you. Reach out to the coach that invited you. Thank you so much for coming on this call with us. And if you want information, we actually have an invitation into coaching if you're considering being a coach and sharing your journey, your fitness journey with others. It's a public Facebook event. You can join us on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Whoever invited you on this call will gladly tag you on that event page, and we hope to see you on Wednesday as well. Alfredo, thank you so much for sharing your story and having the courage to take a chance and share it with us.
No, like I said, it is my pleasure. Everyone is welcome. I've been for the past couple of months, since I started doing this, folks are hitting me up. Not only my English community, but my Hispanic community. They hit me up and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Primo, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I'm not a paid actor, that's for sure. And so, and my family knows me, so I talk to them how it is. But for those that don't know me, my life, I live it like an open book. I don't try to hide anything. If anything, I'm out there. Ever since I started being a coach, my wife was like, doing your selfies. My son asked me, like, Dad, why you always take pictures of the food? I'm like, I'm helping people that have diabetes just like me. And if I know this recipe is good, I'm going to take a picture, share it so they could have that problem. And he's aware of that. And now he's like, hey, Dad, you didn't take a picture of this, So it's good seeing his support from his side. So it motivates me and keeps inspiring me. He is my inspiration as it is. So
that's awesome. And that's true. We do this for ourselves, and the people that are closest to us, our family, those are our driving motivation for everything. I don't see any questions on the chat, so I am actually going to open it up. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box and we will gladly address them.
Actually, there was a question. Catalina was asking, what is Alfredo's A1C now?
Yeah, and I think Angie said that it's 6.4. So he's actually under pre-diabetic right now. He's not diabetic. Let's see. Any other questions? You forgot that there was a chat box.
Yeah, no, I forgot there was a whole chat
I
down.
know. All right. Okay, so Melissa is asking if Shakeology can help a type 1 diabetic. Yes, it can. Type 1 diabetics, however, the way that they're different from type 2 diabetics is their body actually does not produce insulin, whereas in type 2 diabetes, your cells become resistant to insulin, so your pancreas has to keep producing more and more insulin. That's actually the reason why type 2 diabetics oftentimes end up on insulin, because they burn out their pancreas. So type 1 diabetics, their pancreatic cells cannot produce insulin, so they need to inject themselves. So I have had a type 1 diabetic actually take Shakeology, and she just monitored, she counted the number of carbohydrates in Shakeology, the grams of carbohydrates, which is 6, I believe, and then adjusted her insulin regimen accordingly and monitored her sugars, because that's what you have to do. So type 1 diabetics can definitely, type 1 diabetics have to monitor their sugars a bit more frequently, and they have to adjust their insulin pre-meal, post-meal, so they have to take a look and see, and then they have to take a look along with their endocrinologist and their doctor's guidance to count out how many units of insulin they're using in a day, so then they can do what they call their basal coverage insulin as well.
Yeah, and I saw the chat
Feel
also.
free to send any questions about that to me, and I will help in any way I can. And of course, definitely reach out to your doctor and your endocrinologist.
So I also saw in the chat there was a couple of questions almost that I can answer all in one swoop here.
Yeah.
Question one was, how many times a day do I drink the shake? And what times of the day do I take it? Really, as far as the shake wise, I only take it once a day. That's the cool thing about it. When depends on how hectic my life is. During the morning is usually the craziest, so I just grab and go. Other times, if there's no traffic and I make it back on time, I'll have my breakfast, and then for lunch, I doing my shake. And if you're not on Facebook yet following me, I highly recommend it, because every day I'm coming out with a new flavor. I don't just add water, throw a banana in there, and a packet of chocolate, and then call it a day. No, like this weekend, wife came back from doing groceries. She had her little Reese's Nutages or something like that, candy bar. And I just looked at it and I was like, I bet I can do that.
Yeah.
And it was like instantly, the recipe just started downloading in my head. And I was just like, and my wife's phrase that now she's like, you're driving me crazy with that phrase, because every time I'm tasting it, I was like, it needs something. And,
yeah.
and she
Yeah.
that phrase.
They have mixologists. Well, you're the Shakeology mixologist. That's okay. Well, there was a question that I did see. Hold on one moment. What have you changed eating wise? So I think we kind of addressed a little bit of that, because one of the things is your cravings for other foods are less, right? And you are watching your portions with the portion control eating plan that comes along with the 21-day fix in size and the programs that you've done so far, correct?
Right. The eating plan wise, I stay, the two things I do the same. I'm always having my Shakeology the same, and I'm always using the portion controls the same. The portion controls, talk about mind blowing, it let me see how bad I was dipping into the carbs.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculously huge amount, and that's a big no-no for a diabetic. So I was able to change that. A couple of things. Nothing major. Change my white rice, change it for brown rice. And here recently, I've actually changed that for quinoa.
Yep.
I hope I pronounced it right.
You did. I'm a quinoa queen, so yes, you did.
Dude, that is so easy to make and so delicious. I was just like, what? I did this in 15 minutes? What?
Yeah.
So, and I like it because I can mix it with anything, and it's good stuff. So,
basically what Alfredo just did in summary is just chose healthier carbohydrates. He stayed away from the white and he went towards the colors, because what happens when you go from white to brown is that you're not eating food that is stripped of fiber. And your fiber actually helps to keep you full, but helps your body to kind of hold on and not release the sugars flash into your bloodstream. So it helps it's a regulated, controlled release of sugar into your bloodstream. So it prevents that big high up, crash down.
Yeah. So I just shared there my site. It's not really that great or anything like that, but it's just my virtual notepad where I could just dump things in there, the recipes that I like that work. I put it there, and even myself, I'll go in there and I visit it. You know, I'm always trying to improve it. But like I told the folks on Instagram and on Facebook, if you have a recipe that you want me to try, let me know.
Yeah.
You know, I have no fear trying it. So hopefully that'll help you get you an idea as to how I'm doing my shakes, my meals, and you know, I don't. All the dummy guessing has been taken out of the equation for me. So I just follow the plan as it's supposed to do and work out. Either doing my 21-day fix, insanity. Right now, it's all about the hammer and chisel, so that's what I'm working on. So, you know, this is me now. Hopefully, eventually, you see me all buffed up. But
Yes.
Either way, I'm great. I'm loving this, you know, reversing diabetic journey that I'm on, and that's my goal eventually to reach out nationwide to all diabetics. So hopefully this meeting gets recorded and it gets passed on to generations to come.
Well, good news for you. It is being recorded. And being that it's 9:45 already, so we're going to bring this meeting to a close. And Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, our recording will be posted to the event page, correct?
Yes, it will.
All right. So that anybody who missed the call can be tagged and can watch the call and hopefully get some information. And we hope to see you all Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. All right. Welcome to Coaching Opportunity. And thank you so much for joining us here at Lead Well. Good night.
Thank you, guys.